Today on With the First Pick, we're talking quarterbacks and safety rankings for the 2024 NFL draft class, and we had to call in the expert, Rick. That's right. Florida State standout, two-time Super Bowl champ with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Bryant McFadden is here to share his knowledge. B-Mac, thank you for joining us. You're on spring break, but you still had time to talk some DBs. I'm glad you carved out a little time for us.
The most important position group on a football team, the secondary players, corners and safeties. So spring break or no spring break, count me in.
Rick, as a linebacker, are you okay with that?
Yeah, no, I know what he's doing. He's getting a break. And, hey, hon, I got to go do this podcast for the next hour and a half. So why don't you handle the kids for a while we're on spring break so I can get my break and actually do. I know there's always an underlying theme underneath. Don't tell me I've been in too many situations. Hey, hon, I got to work. So can you get the kids out for a while?
And that's, Rick, why she let you burn to a crisp at the beach the other day when she didn't put the sunblock on you. All right, I'm Rick. I'm Ryan Wilson. That's Rick Spielman. And Rick, as we always say, this episode 143, by the way, how many days until the 2024 NFL draft?
B-Mac, I know you're on the edge of your seat. This is the highlight of the show. But did you know there are only 21 days left until the 2024 NFL draft?
No question. Christmas in spring, as I like to call it, when you talk about the NFL calendar year, man. I can't wait. I know you guys are fired up. I'm super geeked as well.
All right, I will say this, B-Mac. Producer Debo made a mistake. If we did the podcast tomorrow, it'd be 20 days, Rick, and our number 20 is B-Mac. So, B-Mac, I'll put you on the spot. Who's number 20? Who's your favorite 21?
My favorite 21? That's a great question, man. You know what?
That's an easy one.
That is easy. With the Florida State.
Yeah, but I'm gonna keep it with the family ties, right? I'm gonna keep it with the family ties. So I'll go Patrick Peterson.
Patrick Peterson. All right, you gonna go prime time, Rick? Is that what you're gonna say?
Is that a Heisman pose or what kind of?
I don't know what that is.
No, like when he's running down the sideline.
Oh, he's doing that.
Okay.
That could have been the Charles Woodson Heisman pose, though. If you want to go 21 in that direction.
No, that's the right hand.
Oh, there it is. There it is.
This is prime time running down the sideline.
Pat P, a couple other names too, Rick, blast from the past. Cliff Branch.
Oh, there's a good one.
Yeah, and Frank Gore, who I think is still playing. He's in year 55.
Still scoring touchdowns.
Still scoring touchdowns. His son's in the draft, which is crazy. By the way, thanks to all you guys who left 5-star reviews on the Apple Podcast. We really appreciate it. And if you haven't and you like what we do here, think about doing just that. You can also hit the like button, leave a comment, subscribe to the show too, and even though we have 3 weeks to go until the actual draft, Rick, we're going to get to all the 5-star reviews before then, including Utah's Devon Vele, which we missed on the last go-round, but we'll get it before the actual draft. All right, let's get to the cornerbacks and safeties. And B-Mac, we got to start with the corners because that's how you roll. Our consensus rankings between the three of us, and I'll triple-check to make sure we're on the same page here. Mr. Terrion Arnold is number 1.
Yep.
That's how B-Mac and Rick had it. I had Quinyon Mitchell number 1. So B-Mac will come to you first. Why do you have Terrion slightly ahead of Quinyon? Both guys they're top 15 players all day long, it feels like.
Yeah, this was the biggest conundrum for me, the top dog. You know, I love Terrion, I love Quinyon Mitchell. I think the deciding factor for me was just the consistent physical style of play that I've watched with Terrion. Terrion is a guy who's more accustomed to being in your face, bump and run style corner. We didn't see that a lot from Quinyon. You know, he's more of an off type corner. Now, when he went to the Senior Bowl, you guys were there in person. He really showed the ability to play bump and run coverage, but he did so for a week. When you watch his tape, I mean, 70-80% of his reps are from off technique. Now, he does a great job in playing with his eyes, you know, getting his 3-step read, being able to recognize routes. But I'm a bit concerned if he goes into a system where they really need him to play a little more bump and run than what he's done throughout his collegiate career. When it came to Terrion, you know, Terrion is a very, very gifted athlete. He tackles well. He plays. You can tell his IQ, football IQ, is where it needs to be. And just the fire that he plays with. And like I said, being disruptive is what he does. And he competes very, very well. So that was the deciding factor. And it's a bit tongue in cheek when you talk about trying to decide between either guy, because I really love both players. But when when it came to putting one guy above the other, I went with Terrion because I think his style of play transitions, rather nicely in the National Football League, regardless of what scheme he goes to, because we've seen Terrion play off. We've seen Terrion play in the slot. We've seen Terrion play up in your face. And also, too, this for me, Rick, was huge. Terrion has seen more high-level competition. He's seen a lot of high-level competition, a lot of guys that's going to play in the NFL. When you look at Toledo and some of their matchups, instantly Quinyon was playing against guys that probably wasn't going to get a shot in the National Football League. So that played a big part. But one thing I say before I turn it over, Quinyon tackling, he only missed 3 tackles last year. He's a very, very gifted tackler. So that's a plus. But those were the deciding factors for me with Terrion being number 1.
Hey, Rick, let me set this up for you because you always say roll the ball out, show up. The ball was rolled out, he showed up, and as B-Mac noted, balled out at the Senior Bowl. Like, he was one of the best shutdown corners since we saw Darius Rush last year. I don't know if he outdid Darius Rush what we saw at the Senior Bowl, who had a fantastic Senior Bowl, but he did a great job, number 1. So he showed up against some high-level receivers, not week in and week out like Terrion during the season. Number 2, Terrion, you know him extremely well. We talked to him at the combine. He is outspoken, and he takes things personally and uses that as motivation. Quinyon, by nature, is very quiet. And then number 3, when you go look at the totality of their work in their college careers, obviously Terrion's playing against higher-level competition consistently. So if he's showing up, Quinyon is, and he's doing everything you want him to do, is that affecting him in terms of your final grade? Because, as B-Mac notes, he wasn't doing it week in and week out.
Yeah, no, between the two, I think there's I wouldn't say significant, but there's a difference between Terrion and Quinyon. In my opinion, Terrion, don't look at the 4.51 he ran at the combine, because that dude plays a lot faster on tape than what he timed. And some people made the mistake on Brian Branch last year. And I know a corner coming out of Alabama under Nick Saban, usually those are the guys that are ready to step on the field right away and play in the NFL. But Terrion is not only physical and support, he can play man, he can play off. He is the smoothest into and out of his transition out of all these corners I've seen. I think he has unique ball instincts and awareness. He, I think, ended up with 5 interceptions this year, 4 in the second half of the season. I think he can fit in any scheme. I think the multi-position, either inside or outside, teams are going to fall in love with. And I love the kid's competes because he's not afraid to come up and hit you. And the one thing that Terrion did, and I know him personally, was that in the beginning of the year, you have to say he was a little inconsistent with his technique. But as the year went along, he got better and better. And then after they came out of that break from the Tennessee game, he just took off to a whole nother level for the rest of the year. So to me, I think he separated himself when you look at the, as you like to say, Ryan, the totality of the big picture. I think by the end of it, he separated himself a little bit from Quinyon, in my opinion.
B-Mac, as you hear here, Rick is the guy in school that makes fun of the kid that's trying to make him smarter. So I tried to give him a big word, and he just made fun of me.
Sounds like a linebacker.
It sounds like a linebacker. Thank you.
We have a rule on this podcast: no 3-syllable words.
No 3-syllable words. All right. So, B-Mac, I'm going to ask you for your comp, but here's something that Rick and I have talked about when we do these mock drafts. If the quarterbacks are gone and you're Denver at 12 and you're not going to be in the quarterback business, at least in the middle of the first round, it certainly feels like you would love to have Patrick Surtain's teammate across from him be Terrion Arnold. That feels like a layup. Yeah. Even if Quinyon's there, even if I like Quinyon a little better, I understand that. Who is your comp for Terrion Arnold?
Man, I watched a lot of guys when you talk about watching guys that their game, is similar to Terrion. And the first name that kept jumping out to me was Jalen Johnson from Chicago.
Ooh. Jalen
Johnson. When you remember Jalen coming out of Utah, had hot tape coming out of Utah, super hot. I love his above the shoulder game. It reminds me a lot of Terrion, as Rick mentioned, just the smoothness and his technique. I mean, coming out his transition, it was like, when he was birthed to backpedal. and that's a natural. That's very, very important.
He always came out of the room backpedaling.
Yeah. I'm trying to get my son to do that right now. We backpedaling every day. I want it to be fluid. I want it to be natural. And Jalen has that same, skill set, and the same can be said for Terrion. So Jalen Johnson was the first player comp. When you look at the measurables, when you look at the style of play, the willingness to tackle, that's important as well. And just being ball aware, searching for the football, trying to go get the football. Jalen Johnson is my guy when you talk about NFL comp to Terrion Arnold.
What do you got, Rick?
I got to agree. I had Jalen Johnson, and then I sprinkled in a little Lattimore.
Marcus.
I kind of try to combine comps.
That's what you do. You like to combine the comps.
I like to combine the comps.
All right.
Johnson and Lattimore combination.
I'm gonna combine it even more. I'm gonna go Jalen, Lattimore. I had AJ Terrell. How much do you love that one?
I don't hate that one. I hate it.
You do or don't?
I do.
Oh, I thought you said you don't.
Yeah, no, I do.
Okay, that's fine. All right. So I mentioned number 12.
You know, AJ Terrell is a little longer, a little bit more leggier than this kid. This kid,
he's a half-inch taller.
Yeah, I'm just telling you, different style. This kid's smoother, and AJ is a great player, but this kid is smooth as silk.
Okay. I thought you were going to say, just so you know, to the people listening and watching, you actually like me a lot, but no, you went the other direction.
Yeah, of course I would.
By the way, if you love this, and I know a lot of people don't, but if you do, me, Rick, and B-Mac are going to be in Stamford, Connecticut for the draft. So we'll all be together. And Rick, maybe we'll arm wrestle.
Why?
Wow. Rick, hey, I don't know if you want to arm wrestle with Rick. He's been on them curls and buys, man. The buys and triceps.
Yeah, I know. Maybe I don't know. Can I beat you in a foot race at this point, Rick?
Yeah, okay.
I
have. Well, yeah, I popped my abductor muscle in my hip.
All right, that's what we'll do. We'll do that one, and then if you catch me, then we'll arm wrestle. How about that? B-Mac can be the ref. All right, B-Mac. I mentioned number 12 overall for the Broncos. Is there a chance that Terrion and/or Quinyon gets drafted earlier than that?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, right outside the top 10 is where we can start seeing some movement at the cornerback position. And there are a lot of teams that could use a QB, a CB1 or someone that can help their defense, tremendously. And I think either guy could see their name called anywhere when you look at 11, 12. We might see some teams trade out at the top 10. I know Atlanta has been flirting with that idea, trying to get more resources. So I think that's where we could actually see the draft starts for the cornerback position.
So, Rick, 4 quarterbacks probably gone in the top 4 or 5 picks. But if Atlanta trades out at 8, I don't think Chicago would take a cornerback at 9 if there's an edge rusher or wide receiver there. The Vikings at 10, if they go in a completely different direction outside of quarterback for whatever reason.
Or 11.
11, excuse me. Yeah, the Jets are 10. So,
but you think, okay, we're 21 days before the draft. I have the order pretty much memorized, at least in the top 10.
And I'll say this: if the Vikings do the unthinkable and not take a quarterback, when you look at their scheme, that was a scheme that I really love. Terrion Arnold could potentially be a part of. Brian Flores, the tenacity in which he brings pressure, a lot of man-to-man, either playing man up or playing man off. When you look at Terrion's skill set, as we just highlighted, based on what they do in the secondary under Brian Flores, that could be an ideal destination for a guy like Terrion if the Vikings decide to not go, target a quarterback with their first round selection.
And the other thing is this wasn't Rick's draft, but they got Andrew Booth Jr. and Lewis Seen, neither whom have worked out. Andrew Booth, you would have liked him to look like Terrion a little bit. We haven't had the opportunity to see that, so it's not like they might not be in the cornerback business, as you point out. All right, I'm gonna lump in Quinyon here because we've been talking about him as we move through this. And B-Mac, I'm just gonna ask you this: what are the chances at pick 20 when the your Pittsburgh Steelers go on the clock, that Terrion and/or Quinyon are there, and you're gonna take him over a Jackson Powers Johnson, which would make Rick very angry, or an Amarius Mims? Like, what are you doing if you have those 4 guys there, or 3 guys, one of the cornerbacks and the center and the tackle?
Man, if either one of those guys are there at 20, there's nothing to think about, Rick. I'm sorry.
Rick, what are you doing?
If either one of those guys are there for Pittsburgh at 20, there's, we go get one of those guys, whoever is available. I don't think that happened. I don't think there's a
I'm telling you, B-Mac, there's going to be a lot of moving and shaking. And if someone falls in love with a Jackson Powers Johnson or an Amarius Mims, those guys, some of those guys might fall to 20.
I hear you, but I don't know how Rick feels, but I don't think it happens where either one of these guys are there at 20. And if there is Pittsburgh, because you saw how the draft just kind of fell in Pittsburgh's lap last year with JP Jr. just sitting in the second round.
Right.
Like, it's something about the Steelers where just the perfect player just falls into their lap. You know what I mean? And fits everything they would like a Steeler to do on the football field. I don't think that happens, but if it did, whoever it is, Terrion or Quinyon, we're running to the podium with the first round selection of Pittsburgh. You taking one of these corners, and you figure out the center situation or the tackle situation later on.
Rick, what do you think about that? If your guy JPJ is there and Amari Smith.
If I see someone running to the podium with a corner on that card, I'm taking him out on the way up.
So if you have
Quinyon Mitchell can't protect the quarterback, their issue is not defense, it's offense. And I understand they need a corner.
They need a corner.
But if you can't keep whoever it is, Justin Fields or Russell Wilson upright, and Arthur Smith's going to want to run the ball, but if you can't block up front, they're not going to be able. They're stuck in a rut, and they have to do something.
Can I ask you a question? Going back to your GM days, what was your consistent drafting philosophy? Biggest need or best available player?
Well, it was a best available player within the category of biggest need. So it's a vertical.
So it's a combination of both.
It's a horizontal board. So in Ryan's scenario, if you have, let's say, Quinyon or you have Terrion Arnold there, and you have Jackson Powers there, and they're equal in ability, as far as you don't look at it up and down, you look at it across this way. Then you take the need. And then we're arguing what's the biggest need, the corner or the center guard. And I think the center guard, Jackson Powers Johnson, to me, is like when they had Pouncey, because Pouncey made that team roll. And I think Jackson Powers Johnson's the perennial All-Pro for the next 10 years. They're going to set the tone up front. But every Pittsburgh Steeler team that had successful, I mean, B-Mac, were you there with Pouncey?
Yeah, I was there with Pouncey. Was I there with Pouncey? Yeah. We
2010 he came in.
Yeah, and also too before Pouncey, our Super Bowl years, we had Jeff Hardens, who wasn't a national known name, but played the game exceptionally well at the center position. When you look at Pittsburgh, traditionally, the center, going back to the Mike Webster days and the Monty Dawson and all those guys, man, they've done a real good job in solidifying that position, which as you talked about, it works, it makes everything else better when you have that center. So I wouldn't be mad, Rick. I wouldn't be mad. It's just the bias in me when you talk about
I know it's biased. Yeah, you can't let me give you a hint, okay? When you're in the media, you have to have wide open vision. You got to look at all angles. Or if you're a GM, look at every angle. Don't be, hey, I'm a corner. I was a really good corner. But I got to look at the other positions too. I'm not going to have 22 first-round corners out there when I got other needs on this team. And I think there's enough corners that they can come back in the second round
and third round.
I think there's a drop-off at the center position.
It is.
And Mason Cole did not play well last year. Who's their starting center right now? They don't have one.
B-Mac's a starting center right now. They got to get one.
Well, this is the great thing about
I don't even think this is a wasted 20 minutes of my life arguing, because Jackson Powers Johnson's not going to be there when they pick anyway.
He might.
He's
not going past Seattle at 16.
But again, if that happens, to my original point, one of those cornerbacks, B-Mac, if that happens, might fall to 20. I'm just telling you, there's a chance.
Powers Johnson is already gone.
And if a team falls in love with Amarius Mims, who Rick and I have talked to death, is a fantastic athlete but hasn't played a ton of football, you just don't know. All right, let's quickly get a comp for Quinyon Mitchell, and we'll take a quick break and keep rolling through these cornerbacks. We'll get to some of those cornerbacks that could be there for the Steelers in round 2 at pick 51. B-Mac, who's your comp for Quinyon?
I talked about the off technique, playing with his eyes, fluid plant drive, transition, great body bend. Darius Slay kept sticking out for me. Darius Slay. And that's a scheme that I think Quinyon Mitchell will definitely elevate in, playing quarters, off quarters, playing with his eyes. He's exceptionally gifted when it comes to playing with his eyes and dissecting routes in motion. A lot of what we see from Darius Slay, what we've seen from Darius Slay, the same kind of body measurables as well. Their playing styles are very, very similar. So I want Darius Slay.
What do you think, Rick? You okay with that, or you want to?
Yeah, that's good.
All right,
Buckle your seatbelts, boys. I'm coming
right.
down with my comp.
You're coming in hot. What do you got?
Coming in hot. Christian Gonzalez.
I don't hate it. That makes me angry that I don't hate it. But I get
Long corner that can play off, that is pretty smooth in its transition. The body length and the movement skills reminded me of Christian Gonzalez last year.
I don't think he's
a lot of people forgot about Christian. Before he went out, he was playing some good football.
He was balling.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah.
Are you okay with that, B-Mac?
Mm-hmm.
All right, thank you. I feel like righted on this podcast.
I would say this. I think Christian Gonzalez had better ball skills.
Well, I will say this on Quinyon. He had like 250,000 PBUs.
Yes.
So I count that as ball skills. Now, catching the ball is a whole different issue. I think he has bad hands, but I don't have issues with him trying to locate the ball because this guy gets his hands on a lot of ball. He's not he doesn't have interceptions, but he does do what the definition of a corner is to do. Do not let the receiver catch the ball. But I wish he had more interception. He had opportunity to have more, but this guy is unique, I think, from a ball skills standpoint, as far as timing and going up and not panicking, especially when he's down the field in 50-50 situations. This guy has a knack for at least batting the ball away.
Yeah, look. I don't want to be disrespectful to B-Mac's old teammate Ike Taylor. He's got better hands than Ike. You act like he can't catch the ball at all. Like I mean, he's had opportunities. He's made some plays.
The combine was not very good at him catching the ball.
He was nervous. By the way, when I do mock draft,
there's gonna be like 70,000 fans screaming and yelling. I hope we don't get nervous. Just knock the ball down, dude. That's all I'm asking. We'll work on a jugs machine on the sideline during practice.
What do you think about this comp? And this is I'm just looking at the physical measurables comp. This is a young man that you know, Cam Taylor-Britt.
No.
See, B-Mac, if I text you to say it, he would have loved it, but that's okay. I'm all right with that. I'm all right with that. All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to get into some names like Cooper DeJean, Nate Wiggins, Kool-Aid McKinstry, Ennis Rakestraw. I mean, this class is loaded, B-Mac, and we'll talk about that right after this.
The PGA Tour returns with the RBC Heritage, April 20th on CBS and streaming on Paramount Plus.
All right, guys, let's keep it rolling. Number 3 on the aggregate with the first pick list, as decided by B-Mac, Rick, and me, Cooper DeJean out of Iowa. Now, he has not done anything because he broke his leg back in November, I believe. Rick and I talked to him at the Combine, and he came across as a very fine young man. I think you would agree, Rick. A little quiet, but that's okay. We're not asking him to give speeches. We're asking him to play football. B-Mac, this might secretly be one of the best athletes in this draft class.
Cooper. Yeah, athlete, best. He probably is the best athlete in this draft class. You know, all state in basketball and track. I think his event was the long jump. He excelled in track and field. I watched so much of Cooper, man, going back and forth. And I'll say this. This is a talented cornerback draft class, but Cooper not being healthy actually helped the other guys. Because if Cooper went to the Combine and ran anything in the 4.4s, he might be CB1.
And I think he's faster than that.
And we're going to see. I know his pro day is coming up next week or something like that for him to run.
I think so.
But I love Cooper DeJean's game. I love his game. One thing I love about a guy like Cooper, there's a lot they already know. Because I love corners that can dissect things before they actually happen, based on wide receiver alignments, based on formation, motion, things like that. And I love his ability in zone coverage to be able to play with free eyes, to go be in a position where he's not supposed to be in, to make plays. That's important. These are things that a lot of kids coming to the International Football League, they don't know how to do because they weren't taught to do so. And one thing you know about Iowa Hawkeyes, if you're a defender on that side of the football field for them, you know how to play football. The mentality, the ability to compete, and the toughness, that's something that they instill in their guys on the defensive side, you know, in and out. So I love Cooper DeJean, man. He's my QB, my CB3, cornerback 3. Great. I think he has the best ball skills in this draft when it comes to cornerbacks.
Except against Minnesota. And Rick brought that up to his face.
Oh, man. His willingness to tackle, He's fluid. He plays with good eyes. He competes. He attacks the ball well. Do you guys want me to give you want to wait for my player?
No,
comp?
let's hear it. Let's hear it. Get Rick going here.
Hey, so Rick, so what I did was I was watching tape and I contacted a few of my cornerback buddies that I played with, either got drafted with or played with. And I kept looking at his tape. I'm looking because there's not a lot of 200+ pound corners that come into the league 200+ pounds. Cooper is what, 207, 208, 209, depending on the day. 6'1", big body guy. So I'm like, who does he remind me of when I watch his game, look at the versatility, played outside, played slot. He was a returner. He tackled well. And this name kept coming up to me. So before I give you the guy's name, I text him. I say, bruh, I want you to watch this kid that I'm studying for the draft. Let me know his game, who it reminds you of. Send it to him. Call me back. He's like, bruh, he got a little bit of me in him. I said, that's what I was saying. And the player who I'm referencing is Antrell Rowe.
Oh, now that's high level.
Antrell Rowe. Now, the thing about Antrell, and me and Antrell, we got drafted together. Of course, we played against each other throughout our career in college, with Antrell being in Miami. I'm at Florida State. I think Antrell laterally is a little more quicker laterally, than Cooper. But the thing that I like about these two and why I'm comparing him to Antrell at Miami, remember, he was an outside corner, but he oftentimes played the slot as well. And tackling was not an issue. He wasn't a liability. He was an asset. Not to mention his return ability for Miami as well also, that led him being a top 10 selection to the Arizona Cardinals, and played his first few years at the cornerback position. Of course, then he transitioned to safety and didn't miss a beat. So that's the guy I'm going with when you look at player comp to Cooper DeJean.
Boy, that's next level, Rick. He actually texted the person and watched the tape and then had it confirmed by the person that the comp was for. That's a first here.
Is my turn?
It's your turn. What do you got?
Yeah, I agree with everything B-Max said except this. I think that I think he can play Nick in corner. I think he may end up being a free safety.
Why does he have to move to safety, though? What does he show me there?
He'll start out at corner, but I wouldn't be shocked if he ended up being a free safety. And the reason I say this is if he gets out on an island versus the type of receivers that he's going to have to face, I don't know if he is as quick twitched as Terrion Arnold as far as mirroring and man coverage. I think he's a really good athlete. I think he run supports. I think he's got to fit in his zone scheme where he can use his FBI football intelligence. And I think he comes out of his transition. But I think if he gets matched up with a speed or quicker guy, that he's going to struggle to mirror and man coverage. I think everything else I like, but because he's so smart and so instinctive, and I think better zone than man, I don't think you're going to put him out on an island and he's going to DeJean primetime somebody. I'm covering this cat because I think
do the move.
Yeah, because I think some of the cats he's going to be playing against are going to be a little quicker twitched than maybe he saw the Big Ten. I'm going to say that he's going to be a really good player, and I do believe he can add punt return, but I think he's going to fit the zone scheme. But I think he can play Nick, which I agree. So I tried to go in my comp, who was a corner that I went back and watched. It ended up being a pretty solid nickel, and I went with Trent McDuffie.
Man, that's high praise, though.
Yeah, Trent played a lot better since he got to Kansas City than I thought I saw in college. But he had some struggles on the outside, but he was I can't say it on the air, but he was a very, very good, all pro Nick corner type.
Let me ask you this.
I try to make the transition of outside to inside like the Kansas City did with Trent McDuffie.
Let me ask you this, Rick. And I don't say this because Cooper is the same color as this young man, but because they're former teammates. Riley Moss, who was drafted last year in the 3rd round by the Broncos. And I think Cooper is way better than Riley, and I like the way Riley played last year at the Senior Bowl. And I thought, to B-Mac's point, he played with incredible intelligence at times, doing things that I'd never seen cornerbacks do in terms of their ability to read the field. Is there any conversation about moving Riley? Because if you're not moving Riley, why are you moving Cooper?
I think Riley's more straight line than Cooper. I think Cooper's more athletically to change direction. in his transition quicks. Riley was a little tight through his lower body, but if he turns, he can run now. I think Cooper is a little bit more smoother as far as a mover, but I just don't know about the transition in mirroring and man coverage compared to like Terrion Arnold.
Well, Cooper has the opportunity to answer some of those concerns, during his potential pro day. And when you come into the league being 200 plus pounds, playing the cornerback position, oftentimes most coaches, most GMs, they visualize you eventually making that move to safety. That kind of Antrell came into the league being 200 plus pounds, playing cornerback and then eventually moved to safety. So that's just the mindset, because you don't see a lot of kids come out of college being 200 plus. Pat Peterson was 200 plus, but he ran 4.3. You know what I mean? So, and you saw it, the 4.3. So with Cooper, that's a concern. That's something.
Pat P is quicker twitch than this kid is to me.
Yeah.
All right. Moving on. Cooper's going to be, we all agree Cooper's a first round pick?
Yes.
Yeah. Again, that's a guy, if he's sitting there at 20, you're thinking about it, I would imagine, if some other guys are off the board. Would you be okay with that, B-Mac, or is he not scheme specific enough for you?
If he's there at 20?
Yeah. And Terrion and Quinyon are gone, and there's some.
Yeah, let's go.
All right. There we go. Yeah. Next up,
Jackson Powers Johnson.
He's going to play safety, quarterback, and center for the Steelers next year. Look for it. So you, B-Mac and Rick, you both had Cooper as your number 3. My number 3 is the young man we're talking about now, number 4 on the aggregate list, Nate Wiggins. And Rick, I'm going to start with you. Why is my guy Nate slipping, given how well he played? And the concerns we had in the summer was him tackling better, and he did that. And I think he, in terms of cover corners in today's NFL, he's as close as you're going to get, right?
Yeah, well, Nate was behind Kool-Aid for me, but again, I'm not involved in the staff meetings. I just get brought in on the end.
Devo just adds up the numbers. It's not a slide against you. But tell me about my guy Nate. Why is Nate falling?
Nate, to me, has unique size. He has unique speed. I think he is the best press man cover guy in this draft. So any zone or any team is going to play press man, this would be the guy that would be the top of my list, because I think he's the best man cover. I don't think he is good in zone. I love his effort. I think he did. Was it the made that
UNC
big
game? UNC game. He ran down the.
Yeah, he ran down the guy. So I don't have any question with this guy's passion or effort. I just think that the missed tackles and the run support. So if I'm a defensive coordinator and I'm man coverage and I say we're going to play cat coverage all day, you just cover this cat, I don't have to worry about it, because Nate Wiggins is going to shut him down for the rest of the day.
B-Mac, you had him as your CB4. I
Yep.
guess you like his game, but you didn't like him as well as the top 3 guys for what reason?
Tackling.
Okay.
Tackling is huge for me. It's huge.
You got better at it.
Yeah, and the top 3 guys that we all talked about, we all highlighted their willingness to tackle. And I'm not saying that Nate is not a willing tackler, but oftentimes he doesn't wrap up the strength that we need. And I tell you this much, just from personal experience, boy, when you play against these offenses, that wide receiver that you're on is cracking down on that safety, and you got to go crack replace. There's no business decisions that will be made. You got to go find a way to get them done, get them down. And Mike Thomas used to tell us all the time, be prepared to embrace whatever it is you put on tape, because if it's not good, you're going to see it every game. So if you're a corner that you're not wrapping guys up, that you seem to be a bit hesitant and trying to crack replace, guess what? They're going to consistently do it. They're going to consistently come at you. So be prepared to embrace what you put on tape. And sometimes throughout Nate's career collegiately at Clemson, he wasn't getting the job done. And oftentimes, too, as you know, Rick, a lot of times with these guys that we're highlighting, they're playing against kids that don't have a shot of getting drafted. So just the athleticism alone can allow them to get the job done. In the NFL, you got to have more than that. It got to be, you got to, because if you don't, every game you're going to be crack replacing. And them shoulders going to start wearing down, and that neck going to get sore. And you can be like, oh. And it's 1,000 degrees outside because it's early September and it's 1 o'clock. So that's why I had Nate, at 4.
Okay.
Now I did speak to Nate. Nate said, and I don't know if you know this, I shared this with Ryan, but Rick, Nate said he ran the 4.27 the combine, but he strained his hip in his first 10, 15 yards. He was disappointed that he ran 4.28, 4.28, 4.27. I said, those are first world problems. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
So super gifted, but that's why I have, Nate Wiggins.
Okay.
And I'm not saying he can't tackle, but just he didn't tackle as well as the top 3 guys.
Right.
I thought the last corner I see that I thought was going to be okay, but he was a non-participant, as Coach Tomlin would like to say, in the run support department was Elam from
Kyrie Elam of
Florida.
Florida. Yeah.
Yeah.
Come on.
But
Yeah.
this guy is better. To me, this guy is at
Got
least
here.
more willing than Elam was when he came out of Florida.
I think he's a better overall player too at quarterback. You agree with that?
Faster. Yeah. No, I was just trying to compare just the
Yeah,
run support
I got you.
because he was the worst I've seen coming out in run support where it actually turned it down on tape, and tape is your resume. This
Right.
kid doesn't turn it down, but it's a little bit of a concern, like B-Mac saying.
And the weird thing about Elam for me is that I remember watching him. He was physical throughout the route, but in the run game, he flipped a switch and was not, like you said,
Non-participant.
a non-participant, which also struck me as sort of weird. I asked the scout about it, and he said maybe he's not comfortable in terms of his ability to tackle and run support, or maybe he's just soft.
For me, that's coaching.
Yeah.
You know, that's coaching. That's where you jump on that instantly, say we're not going to tolerate that. When I was playing at Florida State, Mickey Andrews, if you didn't tackle, if you didn't want to tackle, he can care less about anything else that you were doing on the football field. He used to tell us in the meeting room all the time, you cannot live soft and fight hard. You can't.
That's a good say. You put it on a
And
t-shirt.
that's the mentality he coached us with. And we used to do so many tackling drills that was something that we had to do. If you didn't tackle, he wasn't going to play you because he didn't like soft light players. He wanted to see a mentality where you wanted to bite somebody, shoulder off if he had to, just to try to get him down. So that's college coaching and coaches, and just not, hey, we're not really worrying about that. You be fine because you're just a gifted athlete.
Now the thing is with Kyer, it hasn't changed. Like he's been benched, and they've had to play him in Buffalo when there are injuries. But as a late first round pick, you would hope to have seen more from that.
Yeah. My player comp for Nate, Dominique Rodgers-Cromartie.
That's a good one too.
Yeah.
Oh, you love that one, do you, Rick?
Yeah, I do. That's a really good one.
You want to steal that one, or you have one of your own?
No, I had Greg Newsome when he came out of Northwestern.
I like Greg Newsome. I thought Greg played a little more edge, though. No?
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, Greg had fire.
Yeah, I was okay with his fire. I thought he was a select participant at times at Northwestern.
A select participant. I've never heard that one before. That's a good one, Rick.
That is too many syllables, Rick. All right, here we go. Next up, Kool-Aid McKinstry. I had my guy Ennis Rakestraw ranked ahead of McKinstry, and B-Mac had TJ Tampa ranked ahead of Kool-Aid McKinstry. So we're getting interesting here,
this, boys.
All right, Rick, you are the what's the word? You're carrying the flag for Alabama here, so I'll let you give us the Kool-Aid spiel. He ran the 4.47 at his pro day, which I think
with a broken fifth metatarsal. He had the Jones fracture.
Yeah, so he didn't work out of the combine. He didn't know he was actually injured. He was going to work out, and then the doctors found it, and then he had to take a few weeks off, ran the 4.47, and now all is right in the world. Is that right, Rick?
Yep. Yeah, he's got a screw. He should be ready by training camp. They had a screw put in it, and the Jones fracture usually happens in your pinky on your toe or the fifth toe on the outside. A lot of guys get it, and all they do is insert a screw in it.
I broke my fifth metatarsal at Florida State.
Did you have a screw put in it?
I still got it in there.
Yeah,
okay.
There's a lot of people that's a pretty common injury.
Hey, Rick, let me ask you this quickly, though, because sometimes it feels like the Jones fracture is the end of the world, but you make it sound like it's not.
No, the Liz Frank is different than the Jones.
Gotcha.
Liz Frank is more serious, I think.
Okay. Okay. All right.
Yeah. And that's from my medical expertise, as I do play a doctor on this podcast as well.
And you do perform surgery on request. So Kool-Aid, is he going to be a first-round guy now that we have the 4.47? Because the tape in 2023 wasn't as consistent as we were hoping, I don't think.
Yeah, I think he'd still be a first-rounder. I think that he can play both press and off. I think it looks he is smooth. I think he looks too casual at times. The Texas game when I think it was, I don't know if that was A.D. Mitchell that went up over top of him along the sidelines. But sometimes because they don't go his way, it seems like he gets, I won't say bored,
Sleeping at the wheel.
Sleeping at the wheel when you're just backpedaling and nothing's coming your way.
Yep.
But I do think that when he's honed in, I think he can play in multiple defensive schemes because I think he can play press. I think he can play off. So I gave him added value there. He also has some punt return. I think he's just a backup as a punt returner. He's willing as a participant. He's not going to make any highlights on ESPN for his hit, but he's going to bring him down in open field tackle. But I do think he has ball instincts and awareness. I think he's just a smooth, steady Eddie, going to be a solid starter in the league. But I gave him a little bit more credit because I think he is a corner that can fit in multiple schemes.
Hey, Rick, let me ask you this quickly, and then we'll get B-Mac's thoughts. Is he a better tackler than Nate Wiggins?
Yes.
Okay. I don't know. I'm on the Nate Wiggins bandwagon. All right, B-Mac, you had TJ Tampa ahead of Kool-Aid, but what'd you see in Kool-Aid that got you excited?
Athletically, he has it. Super athletic. That 4.47 confirmed us, and I do believe if he was 100% healthy, because yes, he was cleared to run, but speaking from experience, that surgery to your fifth metatarsal, it takes some time just to kind of get comfortable and get over that mental hurdle that you can go. So I think he's faster than the 4.47 that he ran, but he had to run something, and that was good enough. The issue that I have with Kool-Aid and him not being my fifth cornerback is the lack of engagement that I saw during ball games. Like, as Rick highlighted, he didn't get a lot of action, but then when he wasn't really getting action, you didn't really see the engagement that I wanted to see. And the thing about Kool-Aid, if you guys go back and let's go back to 2023 of July and August, he was the most talked about corner in the SEC. He was the most talked about corner on his team. But we watched the season and how it progressed. Terrion passed him. Terrion played better football. Terrion looked like the better guy. So for me, and Rick would know because he was there in Tuscaloosa with the guys and kind of engaging with the guys. What happened?
I don't know. Yeah, the only thing I would say is this, and BMAC, speak from experience, because I know you that can be painful, and you may just think you just have a sore toe, but I don't know if he played with it all year because it wasn't discovered, or when did that happen? Because in 22, I can see why he was a top corner and everybody talking about him.
That's
23. I don't know if he played with this Jones fracture the whole season or not.
That's a good point.
And maybe that was an issue, but no one knows that. I'm just theorizing right now.
Yeah, and that's a great point, because it wasn't quote unquote diagnosed till Indy, which was in February. So I agree with you. I think, and that's, as I give you guys my sentiments about Kool-Aid, like what happened, I'm right there with you. I do believe he was hurt at some point in the season. And when was it early? Because if it was early, it's not like he had bad tape. I mean, he still has high level tape. So if it's early, and that's something that if I was a GM, if I was a coach, if I sit down and talk to him, like, bruh, were you hurt this season? And when? Now, of course, I do my due diligence and talk to some of the people in the building as well, because his tape is real good. He's a first rounder in my opinion. But these are things that I look at when I'm watching the game. When I talked about the lack of engagement, that probably answers my question. So for me, Kool-Aid, I have him 6, but I think he could go in the first round still. My player comp to Kool-Aid is Deonte Banks.
Oh, now Deontay's physical.
Yeah, I'm going to be a little hesitant on that one.
Oh, you did. Rick turned the tables. You did it. That's what got Rick. He's off the B-Mac bandwagon.
I love it, Rick. Turn the tables
on.
Because Deontay's a little more physical than Kool-Aid, I think. But Rick, who's your comp for Kool-Aid?
I went with James Bradbury.
Okay. See, I B-Mac, this is what you've done to me. I got to lean towards Rick on this one. you broke me, B-Mac. You broke me.
Because I'll just say this. The one thing that everybody questioned, and it was answered, but because he is smooth, everybody and every scout I talked to that came down through there when I was down there in the fall was, how fast is he? And even people in the building questioned what he was going to run in the 40. And not one person, and I'll agree with you 100% that Terrion Arnold is a more explosive athlete. But sometimes these guys that move so smooth don't look like they're moving. And I think that's why some people question that. From my sources down in Alabama, when I asked them, they said not from just a ball instinct standpoint, that they compared his ball instincts to Patrick Surtain when he came out, but not as fast as Patrick was what the sources that I talked to down in Alabama.
And Patrick was a couple inches taller, right? Yeah. Oh, he was 3 inches taller. Man, Pat's 6'2".
I'm talking ball. Will you please pay attention to what I'm saying?
I'm just giving people context physically. I get it.
You want the inside scoop on what I got down there or don't? If you want to discredit it and don't deny it, then that's up to your pride. Take the information and you can do whatever you want with it. I mean, you can go and put your picnic and put it on your sandwich underneath it like a napkin and then throw it away if you don't like the information.
See what I deal with, BMAC? And I've already filed the
request.
I've already filed the request to HR, just so they know.
I love it.
Rick, I was just adding context for people. I wasn't questioning your sources or your 30 years of NFL experience. I was just saying to people that, and I was surprised. I forgot that Patrick Surtain was 6'2".
Oh, he actually looks 6'3". I stood next to him, man, and oh my goodness, that's
he's a man.
He's a grown man.
What happens, BMAC, when you
was a man?
when you get older, BMAC, you start shrinking. That's what happened. You had
to be, because I said, my goodness, this man is not 6'2", man. He's about 6'3", 6'4".
All right, I'm going to hit 6 through 10 here just so we can get to the safeties, but I'm going to hit 6 through 10, and I'm going to have each of you highlight the guy you want to talk about most. Ennis Rakestraw in Missouri, man, we had him on set. He is a great guy, undersized, but he plays with an edge. Kamari Lassiter, so he ran 4.65 is the number you saw at Georgia, and BMAC, you and I were talking about this. Four folks in the NFL told Field Yates out of ESPN that he was closer to 4.5, 4.51, and that's a completely different conversation if that's true. TJ Tampa out of Iowa State, and BMAC, I'll give you Rick's. I don't know if it's your official comp, but what you used when we were talking about him in the 2-round mock draft we did last month, Rick. A poor man's Joey Porter Jr., and not in a bad way, but that type of player, just not quite as gifted as Joey, and I think that's a compliment. My guy, Mikey Sanderstill, I'm going to tell you guys, Mikey has a chance to go top 40. There are going to be some teams between 32 and 40 that might take him there. And then DJ James and Chris Abrams-Strain, two really good players, one out of Auburn, one out of Missouri. B-Mac, since you're the guest, you can highlight whichever player on that list you want to.
I'm going to go with TJ Tampa.
All right. What you got?
I had TJ as my 5th best corner, and I agree with Rick. Joey Porter Jr. was my player comp for TJ Tampa. I love the length. Oh, I love the length, man. That is super important. If you got a cornerback that's standing straight up, but he can scratch his ankles, those long arms, you can't coach that. You can't coach that. The thing I'm high about with TJ, if he goes into a great situation where he's coached the right way, he can give Joey Porter Jr. like production in year 1. He tackles, he competes, he's ball aware, he searches for the football. You know, Troy used to tell us all the time in the secondary, man, search for the football, because when you search for the football, it becomes a habit. You're always searching for the football. It's like Peanut Tillman. He was always searching for the football. And that's the mindset that TJ has in regards to breaking up passes, going to the receiver he's covering. And he fits. And for me, the scheme that he fits, and when you look at this team, when you look at the corners they've drafted or the corners they've had, he fits that measurable standard outside of the guy in McDuffie, and that's Kansas City. When you look at their outside corners, long, lengthy guys that play in your face, that very, very disruptive. You know, when you look at L'Jarius Sneed, what he did there in his career, remember Charvarius Ward before he left to go to San Francisco. When you look at Watkins and the guys they currently have, the only kind of different skill set is McDuffie, who's a little smaller in stature, but yet still he still plays with the same mentality. So if he can get into a system like Kansas City, the way Spags and how they utilize their defenders, especially those lengthy guys, I think he's going to excel. So that's the guy I'm highlighting. I'm pretty high on TJ. I think TJ can have a heck of a career if he goes into the right system with the right coaching.
Second round pick, or do you think he goes sooner than that?
It depends on the run on corners. For sure, second round, a high second round. But I'm starting to see some traction now where people feel like he could be a late first rounder, depending on what happens.
Well, Rick, you discovered him, so thank you for that. Who's your guy, Rick? Who you want to talk about?
Rakestraw.
All right.
And I think all these corners that you mentioned are going to play, but this kid stuck out to me because it's hard to find a corner that is a tone setter on defense. And
Witherspoon from Seattle was last year.
Yeah, that's right.
That's what I said. Devin Witherspoon hitter, but he's he's quicker than fast. He's going to battle your rear end, down in and down out. He don't care. Whoever's over front of him, I'm going to take this dude out. Better in the man coverage at the short or immediate area. I just don't know if he's going to get in the foot race, if he's going to be able to stay with him. But this dude stuck out to me the most because of the way he hits and because of his competitiveness. I mean, even his body language, if someone catches a ball on him, he is mad as a hornet's nest. I just love the way that he plays football. He may have some shortcomings in some athletic areas, but this guy is going to figure out a way to play on Sundays in the NFL.
No question.
And Rick, we talked to him about a play against Kentucky in the red zone where the defense gave up a touchdown. It wasn't his fault, and he was fired up on the field. And Rick and I took that as someone who loves football. He explained to us that he felt bad about showing up to safety, went to the sidelines, apologized, came back. They were all on the same team. And Rick, I think you appreciated that, taking accountability, even though it wasn't even his fault. No,
yeah, this dude, there was a busted coverage, and this guy was all over everybody. Just because this guy, I just know this kid hates to lose by the way he plays, and I love his body language on tape. And again, understand some of the athletic shortcomings, but this guy's going to fight you. If I'm going to take one guy in the foxhole, I'm taking this guy with me.
So, Rick, you taking him in the first round?
No, absolutely not.
No.
He's
getting some first round buzz.
That's good. Yeah, and he'll be a good player, but I don't think some of these other dudes that we talked about, I think there'll be 5 corners in the first round, and I don't think he's in the top 5. But someone's going to get a really good football player.
All right, before we go to break here, B-Mac, how many cornerbacks go in round 1?
5.
Rick's at 5. You're at 5 too?
Yeah, I'm 5.
Okay, all right. Didn't even
Great minds think alike, Rick.
Great minds think alike. Rick gave the old thumbs up. All right, I'll just be the other guy then. How about that? Next up, after the break, we'll rip through these safeties.
Yes, sir.
So B-Mac can get to the beach right after this.
The best couch potatoes come from Pluto TV country.
And these taters, they like all sorts of different things.
Survivor Channel, Ink Master Channel.
If it's got a spaceship in it, I'm probably watching it.
3 channels dedicated to CSI.
Whatever mood you're in, it's going to be easy watching.
All right, we are back. So I'm looking at our list of safeties. We all agree that Tyler Nubin out of Minnesota is safety 1. Javon Bullard is safety / Nick 2 for all of us. And then things get crazy. So it's safety 3. Rick, B-Mac has Cam Kitchens. You have Cole Bishop. I have Jaden Hicks. So the aggregate rankings ends up being, of course, Kalen Bullock out of USC. And then it's Jaden Hicks, Cole Bishop, and Cam Kitchens to wrap things out. So, B-Mac, I'll come to you as our guest. We'll start with Tyler, and then we'll get through these guys. We got about 15 minutes here. He is long. He didn't run as fast as I was hoping. I liked a lot of things he did in center field. Where are you going to play him at the next level, and how high are you thinking about drafting a Tyler Nubin?
I'm gonna play him in the post.
Okay.
I'm gonna play him in the post, and the reason why is because I think he's the best traffic cop amongst all the safeties. And what I mean when I say that, he's a guy who can direct traffic, keep everything in front of him, and just direct traffic. Great communicator. You can tell his above the shoulder game is where it needs to be, playing the safety position. He might not be one of the best athletes at that position, but heck, I played with a guy in Ryan Clark who was never the best athlete, but he was super smart, super instinctive, and tough. And he was a guy who was a great traffic cop for what we did in our defense in the secondary. And Tyler reminds me, he has some of those same skill sets. I would play him in the post. And as he continued to progress and understand the NFL game, I think he's going to excel. His game reminds me a lot of Justin Simmons. You know, a kid who came into the National Football League. People kind of had some concerns athletically about what he could do. And because of his ability and knowing his strength, he's been having a great career, you know, exceeding the expectations, in my opinion, when you look at what he's done. So Tyler reminds me a lot of Justin.
Probably day 2 guy, right? He's not going to go in round 1. I don't think we're having any safeties in round 1.
No. We might not see a safety get drafted, and Rick, correct me if I'm wrong, probably until maybe the closer to the end of the second round, probably.
Yeah, I had him top 10 to bottom 10 of the second round, somewhere in the middle of second round.
Okay. All right. What was your comp for Tyler Newman, Rick? You okay with Justin Simmons, or do you have another guy in mind?
Okay, you know, and I was just listening to BMAC describe smart, headsy. I just don't know if this guy can run. If someone gets on top of him, he's going to be able to turn his hips and stay in a foot race down the field. But playing deep, directing traffic, football intelligence off the charts, getting jump, anticipating throws, because he does have really good ball production, reacting to everything underneath. He reminded me a little bit of Harrison Smith when he came out of Notre Dame.
Oh, now you're going back to the cheat sheet. See, he spent all these hundreds of thousands of dollars evaluating these guys. He's got the built-in comps already. I don't have any.
Hey, Rick, he ain't as tough as Harrison Smith.
No, but this kid will hit. But when you described football intelligence, playing everything in front, getting jump on throws, the production he's had on the ball, everything describes Harrison Smith. But Harrison Smith will whack you now.
Who drafted Harrison Smith to Minnesota?
Yeah, I can't remember.
And you know what happened? They didn't talk to him all pre-draft process. They were trying to keep it on the hush-hush, and it worked out for them.
Last time we talked to Harrison Smith was at the Senior Bowl. Never heard from us again until we moved up, and I traded up to go get him in the first round.
Slick Rick. All right, Rick. Javon Bullard, a guy we talked about in the summer. You turned me on to him then, and he ran a 4.47. I think he plays that fast. Some folks don't. I don't know where you are on his game speed, but I love his game, and I love the way he plays, even if he is head undersized.
You talking to me or BMAC?
You. That's why I said Rick. So you go ahead, or you can sit there, whichever one you want to do.
Yeah, I'm just going to say this guy is just a very good football player. This guy is physical. The thing that I noticed down at the Senior Bowl is when you get him in one-on-one situations, his athletic limitations may show up a little bit. But when it's a team period, this dude is when the lights come on. So don't judge him on one-on-ones. When you see him out at OTAs the first time, he's in one-on-one drills, you're going to say, like, God, what the hell we just draft? But you put him when an 11-on-11 starts, and anytime, this guy is a baller, because I think he could play Nick. I think he can play some probably from the free safety. He, to me, is a poor man's Brian Branch without the athleticism that Bryant had.
So let me ask you this. Let's say you equally need a nickelback and you equally need a post safety. Who are you taking first, Tyler or Javon?
Newman.
Oh, okay. All right. Because I'm
taking Javon.
I like Javon too. I'm a Javon fan. I like Tyler a lot, but I like the edge with Bullard plays. Who is your comp for Javon Bullard, BMAC?
CJ Gardner-Johnson.
Oh boy.
That's a good one.
Oh boy. You get a little Brian Branch, a little CJ Gardner-Johnson, you cooking with gas.
And to piggyback on Rick's point about Javon not excelling in one-on-one situations, but excelling in team situations, that tells me he knows his role.
And
yeah, and he's smart. You know how playing basketball, you might not be a good player in one-on-one games and you always losing, but when it's 5-on-5, you know your role, you know where you need to be, and you get others involved and you take advantage of the opportunities. And when I watch his tape, I love his game. And one thing I know about, it's the same when you talk about secondary players coming from Alabama under Saban. When you get a secondary player coming from Kirby Smart playing in that Georgia system, they're coached the right way.
Same tree. And Kirby coached me my junior year at Florida State. He was the corners coach for me. So he's a guy who understands the secondary play like no other, being a former defender in the secondary and, of course, being coached amongst some of the greats. So I don't question guys who play in the secondary
too much when they come from programs like Alabama under Saban and programs like Georgia. And Javon is another, testament to that.
Yeah, to your point about 1-on-1 versus 5-on-5 basketball, like my thing, Rick, was setting picks and getting rebounds. You can't set picks in 1-on-1. You got to know your role. You got to wait till your teammates get out there to help them out because you got to know your role.
I don't know if you can set picks either, but we'll just move on.
You tell me, Rick.
I would love for you to try to set a pick on me just one time. I would beg for that.
Hey, but B-Mac, here's what you need to know about Rick. He's a big pickleball player now that he's retired down in West Florida.
Yep.
He was playing doubles against his wife, and he's hitting lasers at his wife, hitting her with the ball. That's the kind of guy Rick is. So, of course, he's going to run over me if I'm setting
He's a winner. We want to win by any means necessary.
I said, "Hun, what do you want me to do? Lose the game? If you want to play, we're going out to play and win. If you're on the opposite side, you're getting pelted with the ball."
And you were saying that from the yard when you weren't allowed in the house that night, weren't you?
Yeah.
I was trying to win.
Yeah. Sorry for being competitive. My fault.
And this, boys and girls, is how you found your perfect match for life. Man, you should write a book, Rick. All right, next up, Kalen Bullock out of USC. 6'2", 188 is what he came in at. He looks thin when you see him on tape. He ran a 4.48. I appreciate his willingness to come downhill and try to make plays, but he's just not wrapping up. Now, you're shaking your head, B-Mac, and last year you liked the Boise State safety. Remember him? I can't remember his name. The Boise State safety. The tall kid. What's his name?
Skinner.
Yeah. I like Kalen way more than Skinner in terms of his ability to at least try to tackle. But you're shaking your head. Why are you shaking your head?
I don't see that. When you play safety, you got to be willing to bite. Playing corner and being a willing participant, teams can kind of tolerate that because you're playing corner. But you can't be a willing participant playing safety. Like that those two don't mesh. Now, for me, it's just a lack of effort. I think when you look at some of the missed tackles from Kalen, it's almost like he assuming just because I make contact, these guys are going to go down instead of really wrapping them up and getting them down. And those are missed tackles that would drive coordinators crazy. Heck, they'll drive fans crazy when you have them right here in your grasp, but then you just assume they're automatically going to go down and not put up a fight, and they run through your arms. So that's my issue with Kalen. I was surprised to see what that 4.4 he ran.
Yeah,
that right there surprised me. I'm like, oh, okay. And he's going to get drafted. He's going to be in a good situation, but you got to be willing to stick your face in the fan, as we used to say in Pittsburgh, at any given time. And I'm talking about one of those fans where you take the cover off. You remember the old fans?
No protective cover.
You got to be willing to stick your face in that type fan when you're playing, in the secondary, you playing defense, because you got to be able to throw it off. That's a responsibility for you. And that's what I need from Kalen. Be willing to stick your face, take that shield off that fan and stick your face in that fan.
So, Rick, you had him, and you and B-Mac both had him as your safety 4. I had him as my safety 3. Is he a day 2 guy, or is he going to have to wait?
Ooh.
I had him 3rd to 4th round.
Okay, So he may have to wait a little bit.
Yeah, but I'll just say this. Agree 1,000% with the tackling and willing participant at times. But the one thing this guy does have, he does have very good ball skills. You're ready for this one? So I'm going to go out on a limb here in my pro comp. Not as fast, but if you this guy played at Florida, played 20 yards deep, had a really good career at Cincinnati. Wasn't a willing participant in run support coming out of Florida State. Got better. Reggie
Nelson?
Yeah.
Okay. How you like that, B-Mac? You okay with that?
Reggie Nelson. I got one. Reggie Nelson was a ball hawk, though. He made some plays.
This guy makes plays with the ball in the air now.
Yeah. I got for me, Kalen reminds me a lot of Grant Delpit.
Oh
boy. He's got
Delpit's a little bit more physical, wasn't he, when he came out?
No, remember when he came out, they had some concerns about his tackling.
And he was hurt too, and he didn't have a great final year.
Shoulder issues or something like that.
Yeah. How about this one? How about who is playing good in Detroit right now, Kirby Joseph?
Rick, I said that comp in the spring in the fall, and you yelled at me. I have it written down right here.
No, are you what? Say it.
Which part? What don't you like about that, B-Mac? Finally, I get one right.
Saying, you said you gave Rick that comp and he didn't like it. Now he likes it.
Oh, that's 100%. Debo played the tape. I'm looking at it right here on my screen. I said I'm not even going to say that out loud because Rick will yell at me. And he just said it, B-Mac. That's the world I live in, the world of fear, Rick, from one moment to the next. I'm staring here at Kirby Joseph. I can't believe you did that to me.
Joseph's a real good player too, man.
Kirby's a better tackler too, though, right, Rick?
Yeah.
Yeah. But there was some little bit of issues with his tackling coming out of Illinois.
Yeah,
But he was a converted receiver, I believe.
Coaching.
He never ran through the pre-draft process either, so there's no times on him, which teams had questions about. All right, we got a few minutes left here. B-Mac, you can hit let's hit you guy Cam Kitchens, because Rick and I talked to him, we liked him, and then he ran in the 4.6s, and we had some questions about that. But Cam out of the U, tell us about him.
Yeah, if I'm talking about a player that played for Miami, I kind of like his game.
You have to.
That's what it boils down to. Yeah, he disappointed a lot of folks with that 4.65 in Indy. Ran better at his pro day in Miami. But I just love the fluidness that he has in his pedal. He's a heady player. Has made a lot of plays. Didn't have a lot going right for him in their defense, but he made a lot of plays. He tackles well as well. You might have concerns when you talk about the overall top end speed, but I think if he goes into the right system, Rick, where he can kind of be that traffic cop because he's very, very smart, he can excel. He reminds me a little bit of Malik Hooker.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, reminds me a little bit of Malik Hooker. Malik was faster, a little better athlete, of course. But when you look at Cam and his back pedal, see, that's the thing I love about safeties. When I watch these kids play, not at the combine, because at the combine you're forced to back pedal, but let me see the natural mindset to backpedal in games and do so while staying square and not turning your butt to the sideline. Right. That's one thing I don't like when you talk about coaching. Corners that play with their butt to the sideline, not in a fluid position to backpedal, and the same can be said for safeties. He's a square backpedaler type guy, and his plant drive is real smooth. And if you have those things playing the safety position, everything else we can coach when it comes to proper angles and things like that. That's another thing I love about his game, proper angles. Javon Holland, who plays for Miami, when I watched him come out of Oregon, he was the best angle defender in college football. Because if you utilize angles, you don't have to be a 4.3 or 4.4. You will be where you need to be because you understand angles, and Cam has a little bit of that in his game as well.
Who's your comp real quick?
Who, me?
Did you give you said Malik? Yeah. Do you have a comp?
Malik Hooker. Yep.
The thing I like about this kid is I think he'll try to light you up too.
Yep. I
think he gets a little out of control at times, but I agree with B-Mac on the angles. And if you're in his tracks, you're going to feel him. Mm-hmm. I think he has a little stiffness to him if he has to turn his hips and anything behind him. But I think coming in everything in front of him, his transition or laterally is good. But I just think if there's anything behind him, he has to play. That was a tough comp for me a little bit. So I had to go back to my Rolodex of guys that we had in Minnesota.
Oh boy.
he reminded me a little bit of Andrew Sendejo.
He would hit you.
He would hit you.
Oh my goodness. Oh boy, Woody. Friendly fire. He'll hit you and he'll hit his teammate also.
We had more people on injured reserve from Andrew Sendejo hitting them than the opponents.
Yeah. I used to hate them type guys, man. Stop hitting me, man. Stop doing that. Sendejo,
all right, Rick.
Good. Hey, Rick, that's a good name, boy. He would run into you.
Yeah, he would light you up now if you were in his tracks.
Oh. All right, Rick, we got 1 minute left here. I just want to note that you have Keaton Oladipo out of Oregon State on your list. I love him, but I want you to talk quickly about the kid out of Bishop out of Utah. We haven't talked a lot about him.
Yeah, I love this kid's style of play too. I think he surprised everybody. I think the way he tested at the combine, the jumps, the 40. This is another guy that probably is going to make his living best close to the line of scrimmage. Mm-hmm. Another tone setter on the defensive or in the run support, best in zone coverage. I don't know if he's going to be able to play man, but boy, I thought he can get into and out of his transition, closing underneath. He's going to be one of those guys, if you want to put him on a tight end and have him beat the hell out of the tight end coming up the field in and release, this dude's going to be able to do that. I didn't have a great feel for the way Utah plays their safeties. Didn't have a great feel for him, like in the deep half of the field. But just a guy that I don't want to call him old school, strong safety type. But this guy, is really good at the line of scrimmage. The other thing is when they bring him on a blitz, he's going to have an effect on the quarterback because he knows how to come off the edge with his timing and burst. This guy was a really good football player to me. I just don't know how he would play on the deep half of the field because it's hard to get a feel with those Utah safeties.
You have a comp, or you can get a feel for him?
I kind of went back and forth. I had to go deep into the Rolodex on this one too. Craven
Joseph,
when he came out of USC, with Cravens out of USC when he came out of USC, who was kind of a downhill thumper.
Sua.
Yeah.
Wait, who was it?
Sua Cravens.
Oh yeah, wow, that's a deep cut, Rick. All right. Do you have a comp? Have you seen him yet, B-Mac?
Yeah, I seen him. I like that comp. He's what I call a train track defender. He has a beeline. It's not no wiggle. If he has that beeline on you, similar to like Lewis Seen when he came out of Georgia, a train track. He's on a train track and he's straight lining you. And if he has that, woo, it might be some bills need to be paid.
Some Andrew Sadejo situations.
Yeah, and Sue, if you remember Sue Cravens, he was a train track defender as well.
Yeah, that's what popped into my head.
All right. That's it. Rick's got stuff to do. B-Mac's taking it to the beach with his kids on his spring break. That's episode 143. Thank you, B-Mac, for joining us.
This is a great show, by the way.
Yeah, man. You made us smarter. You took the edge off of Rick. He was a little nicer to me for moments there. He stole my comp. So
he stole your comp, and he took it, too. He didn't even give you credit for it.
No.
We're going to have to pull that tape up. That's why they have tape on file. We'll have to pull it up and see what I actually said.
That's how he shows his love for me, B-Mac, just so you know. So people misconstrue that for him being angry. He's not angry. That's all love. That's what the kids say. All right. Thank you, B-Mac, so much. Thank you, Rick. Get to your pickleball game. Thank you, Devo, for producing. And thanks to all you guys who watch and listen. We'll see you guys next week. Have a good weekend.